speak with the Conservative MP for Sutton and Cheam, Paul Scully. Now, Paul, of course, I want to get you on the by-election results, but first, Rishi Sunak, your leader, has said Alexei Navalny, the fiercest advocate for Russian democracy, demonstrated incredible courage throughout his life. Your reaction?
Yeah, Emily. Hi, Emily. Look, he was a Russian hero and a hero to many others in that region as well. It's sad news. You talked about Bill Browder at the beginning being shocked. I'm afraid I wish I was shocked. We've seen too many people either poisoned, falling out of hotel windows, and now falling ill after a walk. He's clearly been silenced for the last time. And I hope what his death will cause is, and what I would expect him to have expected, is for the West to step up and actually look at this now and say, enough is enough. This is Russia. This is what Russia is all about. So I hope his life is not gone in vain.
And what does that look like? What would it look like for our country to step up? Of course, we know in the States there's the ongoing debate over this $60 billion military aid package to Ukraine, controversial over in America for some. What might that look like, stepping up in this country?
Well, I think for us, we have to support Ukraine in their fight for liberation. We can't just sit there and roll over, because it's sort of like, with the Donbass being in Russian hands at the moment, it's like saying giving up Kent to an aggressor. So this is on our doorstep. This is in Europe, and it also has that economic point of view for us, as well as obviously a fight for freedom.
And of course, David Cameron, the Foreign Secretary, former Prime Minister, has been very vocal in his support for this military aid package. He's been encouraging the states to step up.
Yes, and if we believe in freedom, if we believe in democracy, if we believe in a free Europe and a free area around the Russian center of gravity, and if we believe that we have to sort out the economics of energy security, as well as that pressure that Putin is bringing on, we have to keep on that fight, supporting Ukraine.
Now, let's move on to the by-election results. Disappointing for you?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think it was, I'd expected, unfortunately, at this sort of midterm, to have lost both those by-elections, sad as it is, because I think the two candidates ran good campaigns, but it is what it is. I think there were a lot of people that stayed at home. There are also a lot of people that use the fact that it's not going to change the government of the country in by-elections, midterm by-elections, to be able to register their protest that we're not doing enough, as they see it, to tackle these big issues that around the globe, economically, migration, and all of these issues.
Yes, and Rishi Sunak, he did claim that low turnout might have had a lot to do with how the Conservatives fared. He talked about, the fact that people aren't coming out to vote in the way that they might at a general election. But it is true that Reform Party are surging in the polls, which is eating into your vote. Then, of course, the Labour Party, lots and lots of people out there are desperate for a change in the government, even if Rishi Sunak's right that perhaps there isn't this fantastic level of enthusiasm.
Yeah, I mean, look, turnout was about half of what you'd expect at a general election, and so what you're getting down to is core votes, and it's clear at the moment that Labour voters, Reform voters are way more motivated to come out and vote than Conservatives at the moment. And it's something I found when I've been out canvassing in my own area and in other areas, that at the moment Conservative voters are saying, please get your act in order, give us something to get behind, some Conservative values and a vision to get behind as well. Stop the infighting within the party. And that's something that we've really got to tackle ASAP if we're going to have reasonable prospects at the next general election, because that's what feeds the like of Reform and other parties. There's the dissatisfaction, rather than necessarily setting out a positive vision of what this country might be over the next 5 years.
And lastly, as usual, when the Conservatives don't fare too well, it reignites the debate over tax cuts, backbenchers calling for tax cuts to try and improve the fortunes of the Conservatives. Is that all you've got as a party?
No, I think we've got to set out a vision. I think tax cuts is a single measure, a budget that will last, that won't necessarily bed in unless you've got a vision around it. And any tax cuts that do get put in place, I think have got to affect a wide amount of people. That fiscal drag, tackling tax thresholds about when people are going into higher rates, being dragged into the higher rate, these kind of things. That's affecting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, nurses and public sector people that wouldn't necessarily be expected to be suddenly paying a high rate. That's what we've got to look at now. But we've also got to set out a vision. Housing. What are we going to do for young people? What are we going to do about migration in a sensible way that's achievable? Politics is the art of the possible.
Yeah, I guess the problem is that people think, well, you've had many years to set out that vision, and that vision has changed depending on who's been the leader of the party.
People have stopped listening. I think we've got to actually, realise that, recognise that, and actually change our tack to have a real positive vision.
Yeah, and of course, if lifting people out of taxes, fantastic, music to many people's ears, but then you see Jeremy Hunt on the front of the papers, apparently not deciding against that 2p income tax drop. So it's, we're hearing one thing from some members of the Conservative Party and then another from the Chancellor.
Well, I guess that's my shot. Look, what I've told you is my shopping list. But the Chancellor will be hearing all of those things. He'll have to put it together in a budget, but he'll have that challenge. The challenge is clearly set out now, and the by-election has sort of drawn that what we already knew, frankly, into stark reality. It's a disappointing night for us, clearly, but we now know what we need to do.
Well, good to speak to you, Paul Scully.